I think that leads on outsourcing to another issue which I'm hearing more and more of, and that's a new approach to flexible working, and that's not used in the context that we're used to, in the sense of having a flexible workforce, so that firms going forward, perhaps jumping off from your zero budgeting base, Howard, would reduce themselves to an essential core of legal professionals. And when work is such that they cannot cope with the demand and would traditionally have gone in the recruitment market, don't go to freelancers and the self-employed and flex up in certain practice areas in that way. And with a growing pool of freelancers and a growing pool of people who might be attached to more than one dispersed virtual law firm, that's very much an option going forward.
It's an interesting one, that, Nigel. There's a couple of people I know who have gone down that route, and it's had a tremendous benefit for them in the short term, in the cash flow crunch of the moment, because quite often what they're doing is paying those people on an eat what you kill basis, and pay when paid. So it's having a big impact on their working capital requirement, because essentially they're not having to fund the work in progress to anything like the same extent.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think the concerns many law firm leaders would have around it, again, echo back to Howard's concerns about outsourcing, about you might want the fee earners that are dispersed in that way to be invisible in some cases to the client and standing behind relationship partners.
Yeah.
And it's maintaining quality and style and everything else.
And compliance.
Yeah, very much so.
It just makes me start thinking of an interesting concept. There are a number of firms where they're doing exactly as you say, Nigel. They're focusing on being really good at what they're good at, and then outsourcing and probably managing some of the services that they're not good at. So traditionally, I suspect, Mark, for example, you accept that you don't do property law.
Absolutely not.
Transaction, you would get a property law firm to be a subcontractor for you. Now, and that makes sense. The difficulty is, though, as I see it, what happens is you grow, so you bring more people in. Don't you, with that sort of firm, aren't you effectively stagnating it? That you can't grow it because you're outsourcing it all the time. And to be able to recruit good people for your core service, you need to offer them some sort of future, and some sort of future is going to have to be growth. And that's the stultifying thing. I can think of one practice I know fairly well, which I haven't spoken to them about it, but I've seen them growing and adding new partners, but that's going against the initial ethos of we're going to keep it controlled and we're not going to add the additional services.
I think that's a very good point, Howard. And I think if I were advising a law firm on that strategically, I'd be looking at growing the two strands of the firm in parallel.
Yeah.
The core grows as the demand for add-on services grows.
Yeah. I think that it's about being really clear what your core is and what it is you do, and then what you outsource. And I think the issue is, especially for small firms, taking on an extra person is a big commitment, because you've got all the costs, plus it's another mouth to feed is the issue. So if you're just a bit too busy to do everything, a small amount of outsourcing, so just to keep things going makes sense. But at some point you go, if I'm outsourcing to someone who is pretty much busy their whole time doing my outsourced work, then that looks like you need to employ somebody, unless it's something you say this isn't core to us, or you go back to the IT argument. Actually, there's people who are better doing it than us because they're IT specialists, not lawyers.
Yeah, but it also goes back. Certainly, if I'm looking to refer work, I want to refer work to people I think are the best, and it's perfectly feasible, and I do it quite regularly, to refer people to Mark and Paul on the grounds that they're amongst the best people outside London in what they do. And if they then started to add bit of property or a bit of family law, something like that, I can't legitimately say that I think that they're that good at that.
Well, thank you, Barry, for that. This is nice to know. And actually, what we prefer to do is to say, look, we don't do property law. This is what we do. But we know some really good property lawyers.
Yeah.
So I've done this last week. We've got a merger on the cards, and there's a lease issue. Okay, well, okay, don't touch leases. Go and talk to these guys. All they do, you know the firm, Howard, because you introduced me to them. All they do is property law. So me as a specialist professional practices firm saying, you want property advice, here's a very specialist property firm, go to them. I don't think that diminishes the service or the image of what we do.
No.
In some respects, I think it actually enhances it, because we're saying, not us.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, our proposition has always been, quite often we do review work in the first instance, where we're identifying what people's problems are. We never hold ourselves out as being the experts in solving everything, because it's just not credible. But as you say, I think part of the skills, you know, that we all bring to things is the network of contacts that we've got, who are very good people at helping law firms with specific issues.